Guide the people with bread and circus, and they will surely never revolt. I'm Josh Button. Welcome back to the Josh Button Podcast. This is episode 30. And yes, bread and circus is on my mind. Why? Last night I went to the Miami Dolphins and Tennessee Titans game, and I am a lifelong fan of the Miami Dolphins. I was born into this. It's a family heirloom. It's a passed down generation to generation pastime. And we don't choose these things. They incorporate themselves into our lives based upon our conditioning in our first 7 years. And I have gone through phases where I took it far less seriously and more seriously and less seriously, especially as I've aged and matured into an adult. And I love football. I have, I've given it up from time to time for a season to 2 seasons or whatever, mainly because they were so pitiful and I had other things I was focusing on myself. But also because I saw exactly what this entertainment is, and it is entertainment. I have no conflicting ideas about that. I won't go out on a limb and say that it's completely fixed or that it's scripted, as a lot of people have spoke about in the last couple of years. But I would say that it's entertainment, and it is a tool to distract us from maybe some of the more important things that are going on in the world, or even what we're capable of. And a lot of money is generated from this league, NFL especially. I was talking to my brother-in-law, my father, my nephew, about the $2.5 billion contract. I believe that's the annual contract YouTube is paying for the NFL Sunday Ticket. And it was $1.5 billion for DirecTV before that. But if you think about the kind of money that is the contract just to air these games, and the economic boom and generation of funds from the sports themselves, it's mind-boggling. It really is mind-boggling. And a lot of people are quick to damn professional sports and to, call them out for being so such a distraction and so purposeless. But I want you to think about what it's like if you have zero entertainment in your life, especially the way the world has been for the last few years, going through COVID, going through a stolen election, I'll say it, a whirlwind of political turmoil, a destabilized economy, an inflating currency, and a much harder situation to live and survive and thrive for all of us. And if we focus all of our energy onto battles that we incur every day just to survive and to live, as well as those that really are out of our control, but we feel compelled and called to share conflicting messages and information that is going against the mainstream narratives which seem to be plaguing us. Well, where does that leave us at the end of the day? How much can you possibly engage in warfare without having some kind of mental and emotional escape? Even if it is something that's, quite frustrating, like professional sports. Some of us have our artistic endeavors and our creative outlets. Some of us have sports that we engage in and play ourselves. Some of us have video games. Some of us have just all kinds of distractions. People read, people do all kinds of things to distract themselves from current events and current affairs and reality. How important is that? I spent a good amount of my, late teens playing video games and going through different phases in that regard. But that too, I felt like, it served a purpose in my life. Whether you want to view it as an outlet and an escape from reality, or just something to help you relax or to get your mind off of life stresses. Either way, it serves a purpose. So when we are focusing on the things that are really important in the grand scheme of things to all of us for survival, for creating the best lives possible for all of us, it's important to understand that other people are going to distract themselves from, well, the nightmare that is warfare. And we do it in different ways. And it's completely user based. Each individual has obviously different interests, different things that they can preoccupy their thoughts with more easily than others, and other things, which might just put them further into a depressed state, or in an anxious state, or moments of confusion, especially in the information war that we've all been living through for the last several years. It is important to rest, to recover, and to focus on not only what you can control about your life and the things that are within our control to improve our own conditions, but also just to give your mind a break and give your body a break and a rest. And, you know, for me, that is still football. Every year, me and one of my best friends, we go through this. We play fantasy football and we go through this roller coaster of emotions during the season. And inevitably, we come to the conclusion somewhere towards the back half of the season or the end of the season that, man, this takes up some time that we could allocate to other things. And I wouldn't say it's regret, but, well, we are aware that this is bread and circus. That this, if it isn't even taking food off your table or taking possibilities away from what you could be producing at the time, it is taking some time. And we all have a finite amount of that. So with that said, what should we be prioritizing? And how much rest and distraction should we allow in our lives for sanity and for still keeping a high level of production and engagement with activities and things that help us move forward in life and help us progress, adapt, evolve? It's an individual, decision-making process. A lot of people will escape reality completely, go to the bar every day at 5 o'clock when they're done with their jobs, being distracted, working for somebody else and producing them some positive results and making those stockholders or the business owner, money. And then they go and distract themselves from the reality that, well, they're probably being compensated borderline as minimally as possible. And then the time that they're just allowing to be consumed by somebody else or another corporate entity of some sort is never going to come back. You're never going to recapture that. And it makes it easier for us to go to a bar or to engage in some activity that desensitizes us to that reality and puts it to the back of our minds. And desensitizing is something that all of us do in one way or another. It just is, because life is suffering. For all of us, life is suffering. You either put yourself in uncomfortable situations or life will put you in uncomfortable situations. We all, as we mature, well, we are presented decisions and choices which are not easy. It's never easy to give up comfort. Never. But there is a fine line between, well, sustaining and meeting energy demands and going beyond and burning out. And a lot of us have certainly faced burnout throughout COVID and post-COVID, and getting censored on social media and being labeled misinformationists and being gaslit left and right. We've all been gaslit left and right. And whether or not you are aware that you are being gaslit or whether you are unaware you are being gaslit, you are being gaslit. You are being told things that are absolutely far from the truth. And they are being projected as norms and as things that the majority accepts, when that couldn't be further from reality. I believe that the enemy at hand would really like us all to believe there is no hope. Everything that they say will be accepted as fact, that it is inevitable that our beliefs and the things that we know to be true, in fact, will be washed away. They say the victors write the history books. If we all studied history with a wide angle open lens, the things that we would be picking up on in the last few years that are nothing more than a repeat of history, well, it would have lit our pants on fire. Most of us across the board would have taken to the streets already. We would have demanded immediate change because of the outcomes that would be repeated if we didn't. You can say whatever you want about the QAnon and the Q operation and what mainstream media has had to say about it. But in those posts, there were different mentionings of how bad it really is, how bad reality really is, and that the truth would put most people in the hospital. And when I read it the first time and I came across that stuff, the different areas to which I thought about that, it was wide. It was wide because if I thought about most people who were dependent upon pharmaceuticals, thinking and being, I guess, given a really trustworthy source to share with them the information that conflicted with everything they had built their reality upon, that would be extremely damaging. It would be extremely damaging. 4 to 6% of the population is lost forever. I want you to think about that. That was on the Q post as well. And when you think about it, I think the number's low. I think the number is low. There are still people driving around with masks on, alone, in their cars, and there are still people going to the grocery store and wiping everything down and wearing a mask and staying away from other individuals. And those people, if you haven't realized it by now, are lost forever. They've been vaxxed, boosted. They took their flu vaccine. They've gotten ill over and over and over again. They still take COVID tests. It's extremely sad and unfortunate. But I'm fully aware that the number of people in that state has been decreased by the Q operation in itself. And the people that were privy to information on those boards and to having a conspiracy-minded friend or an associate or themselves and were aware of all the lies and manipulation before COVID. I've said it on here many times that when I had the conversation with people about 9/11 being an inside job and who was actually responsible, they wouldn't hear it so often. It would lead to, well, an immediate emotional response that just wasn't rational because you couldn't have the conversation. They couldn't entertain the idea. They couldn't listen to it. That was the tip of the iceberg because there are so many different areas now. If the public were indeed informed about the truth, the realities would be shattered so, mind-bogglingly. The realities of so many different individuals that are conditioned, are programmed, and believe so stringently upon the things that they've been taught, it would hospitalize people. And I believe over the last 4 years, we've seen layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of an operation, of a informative process that has tapped into the psyche of individuals and made them question their realities, whether it be the pharmaceutical complex, whether it be the foreign wars that we've engaged in and the warmongering and the military industrial complex, whether it be our fiat currency and our economic system, whether it be our own constitution, constitutional rights, slavery, the history of our country. there's been, and leftism in itself, the ideas that are portrayed now by the media and by scholars and academia that are just absolutely far-fetched. Al Gore in his documentary. Look at how many people now are talking about the load of crock that was. And yet, at the time, the percentage of people that bought that hook, line, and sinker and believed it and understood that they had to be, well, spawning change and taking care of the environment and making big changes on behalf of the world's population, or otherwise we were destined to doom. The doomsayers across so many different subjects. What about disease and viruses? There are so many different areas where we've been gaslit our entire lives that I believe these outlets, this bread and circus, as they put it, are medicinal. They're medicinal. They are, even if they're energy harvesting opportunities for the evil elites and the people that are really in control and running the world, because that is a great deal of the principle behind giving them the people bread and circus. It is an energy harvest. Your disappointment and your thousands upon thousands of persons' disappointment is a negative energy, which is, well, it's utilized by forces of darkness. Our celebrations on things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, well, that as well is a misuse of our own energy, our life force. However, you take these things away from us after we've been conditioned and lived our entire lives with them, and I believe you are taking away a medicine. And a lot of people do not have friends and family and associates and a network that they can thrive within and live abundantly in a healthy manner and share and receive as adequately and as abundantly as communities in the past have. We are desensitized in that way as well. These outlets taken away from people would put them in the hospital. A lot of people across the board. Just like the things that they have become dependents upon. There's so much truth in the power of the mind and the placebo effect. And if you think something is good for you that you're consuming and that you're dependent upon, well, taking it away might not be the best step, not especially cold turkey and right away, because of the power of the mind. The thought that a toxin and a poison and something that we know is just absolute trash being put into somebody and their mind utilizing that or the action of taking it in as something positive to lift the state of where they're at or to improve their state. Well, we we can't overlook it. We can't overlook the possibility that our minds are so powerful and our beliefs are so powerful that we can dodge bullets. Isn't that a crazy thought? That somebody with bad intentions can trick us into receiving things and trying to utilize things that are not fulfilling the purpose or could not fulfill the purpose that we think we're taking it for. However, our mind is so powerful, well, that we can reject the negative consequences, overcome the negative consequences. Unfortunately, we've all seen what this vaccine has done to people, and a lot of people. But to think that the belief in COVID and this virus and a disease state was so strong that if they had no option, they would make themselves ill with their own thought processes and their own beliefs and do far more damage than if a poison was given to them or a placebo. or that they knew if just knowing it was available. And a lot of other people took it. Calmed them, allowed them to manifest healing. Just something I've been thinking about. I'm still going to watch football. I'll probably be disappointed just as much as I'll be excited and happy. But for the little bit of time that I put into that every week and all the other time that I put on to, well, fighting misinformation and putting propaganda in my crosshairs and sharing brutal truths with people that may or may not be ready for it and open to it, well, that takes energy as well. And I believe we're winning the war, ladies and gentlemen. This whole truther community thing, well, it didn't happen overnight. And the amount of information that's now in the broad spectrum of viewers, of consumers, wasn't available that long ago. Some of the books that you would have went and had to have read 20 years ago and had a hard time finding did a great job. There was a lot of Bill Cooper, and Behold a Pale Horse is one of the first ones I found. And there was just a lot of underground information that was great, but there wasn't that many people that were actually looking for this and seeking this out. And Alex Jones is in the news. He's back on X. He's most likely an agent and gives a lot of truth in between lines of insanity. And the way he presents things is hard to digest for many. And maybe that's what his job is. Just to be a circus sideshow and to perhaps, well, be a thorn in the side of truth in one way or shape or form. But as many people have come to the fruition that he was right, or some of the things that he said were true this many years later that were far-fetched when he did say them, supposedly, well, that has an effect as well. When the people need a hero, we will provide them one. It's a very famous saying, quote, I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's a deep state / Roman Empire / the controllers of the world, nobilities. And the world is a stage. I 100% believe that. And I believe we're seeing heroes that are popping up left and right that are presented to us for a reason. Some of them to take some of the attention away from Donald Trump, because perhaps he really is and was an outsider who threatened their system. And I have no choice but to believe that, especially the way they've treated him and all of the things that we've seen come into fruition since his inauguration and running, for that matter. But there are other heroes that are being presented to us, and their scripts aren't new. There's plagiarism going on. We see it. There's brilliant speaking and very, thick plot lines to some of these individuals, but questionable history. And they come from different walks that are traditionally used for, gatekeepers and for pawns. So it's hard to invest in politicians especially, but a lot of these individuals, because of the possibility and the probability that they are just created, that they are actors, that they are shaped and formed by those that do not have our best interest at heart and in mind. Anyways, this is episode 30, and today I was really wanting to go into bread and circus and tell you it's all good. It's all good. No, don't drown yourself in desensitizing material. No, don't go off the beaten path of your own growth and maturation and improving your own conditions. But don't be afraid to rest every now and then. Don't be afraid to check out, entertain yourself a little bit so that you can rest your mind and that you can put yourself at ease to a certain degree. Anyways, Good talking to you. Please, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Helps the channel, helps me, keep going with this. And if you are on Spotify or Apple, hit the bell or whatever it is so that you'll get the next episode. I appreciate all of the support. Thank you all, and I will talk to you again soon.